Hi, my name's Craig Vaughan from Map Home Loans. This is a short 10 to 12 minute video presentation on getting a home loan approval whilst on a partner or spouse visa. Quickly on Map Home Loans, we're a mortgage broking firm specialising in home loans for those clients who have a residency issue with or without a 20% deposit, and in particular those on a spouse, partner or de facto visa. Looking at what we're going to cover today in this video presentation, we're going to look at the 5 eligibility criteria the banks look at when deciding whether or not to approve your home loan whilst on a visa. We're going to look at how you can get your spouse partner visa home loan approved with only a 5 or 10% deposit. Quickly, we'll look at the process of buying property in Australia. We'll also look at some misconceptions or some things you may have heard that may not be true, and we'll look at what the next steps are for you in your particular situation in moving forward and making your dream of home ownership a reality. So firstly, we'll look at the eligibility criteria for getting your spouse or partner visa home loan approval. And what we've got is 5 main criteria: income, eligible visa, time remaining on your visa, clean credit, and that you have sufficient deposit and or genuine savings requirements. Firstly, going through these slide by slide, goes without saying, you naturally have to have sufficient income to afford your repayments as well as your commitments, credit commitments worldwide or Australia. So personal loans, car loans, credit cards, and of course any dependents you might have. Secondly, you have to be on an eligible visa. Now, for a spouse or partner visa, it's largely irrelevant if you are purchasing jointly with your Australian or permanent resident partner. So you might be on another type of visa, and that would be quite okay. However, some lenders do distinguish between the types of visa and will only lend if you're on a subclass 300, 820, 309 or 461. They're temporary resident visas. Obviously the permanent resident component of that might be the 801 visa. That's a permanent resident visa. So just the point of the slide really is some banks will distinguish between the type of visa you're on, others will not matter, providing you're purchasing with an Australian citizen or permanent resident. Can you get a home loan approval on a spouse visa? Yes, you can. Generally, you will require 1 year left remaining on your visa. However, not always required. Some lenders have different requirements here, and noting that the spouse visa is now a 2-stage visa and you go straight into, say, the 801 visa, this requirement has been relaxed somewhat. You also need to have clean credit within Australia, so credit clean from bankruptcies or defaults. Generally not an issue for our clients, given it's hard to get credit in Australia anyway, but nevertheless there is the odd person with the unpaid telephone bill or something like that. You also need to have sufficient funds to cover your deposit and genuine savings requirements. So we're going to spend quite a bit of time on this and go through the 4 key things you need. You need to have sufficient funds for your deposit, you need to have enough cash for stamp duty, lender's mortgage insurance, although noting that that can go on top of the loan, and you also need to have enough money for your miscellaneous costs such as your legals, building and pest insurance and things like that. So we just look at your deposit requirements firstly, and what we're looking at here is effectively if a bank is lending you 90% or 90% or 80%, you need to come up with the difference. So in this example, I've said purchase $500,000 and the client requires 90% LVR. What this means is the bank is going to lend 90% on $500,000, which means they're going to lend $450,000. You as a client therefore need to contribute the difference, which is $50,000. Note we have done a quick non-resident calculator you can use. Type in your type of visa, the currency you're earning, normally Australian of course, and it will tell you whether you can get a 90 or a 95% loan. On top of your deposit, you also need to have sufficient funds for stamp duty. On our website we've got a calculator there for stamp duty. You type in the purchase price, pick the state you're buying in, and it will tell you how much your government fees and stamp duty is. In this particular case, government fees in New South Wales on a $500,000 purchase would be $18,296. Looking at lender's mortgage insurance, lender's mortgage insurance is required if you do not use a 20% deposit or do not have a guarantor for a 20% deposit. You can read more, it's quite detailed, you can read more about lender's mortgage insurance at that link noted there. However, quite detailed. Just so you know, lender's mortgage insurance is an upfront fee paid once only, and it can sometimes be put on top of the loan. In this particular scenario, $500,000 purchase, borrowing at 90% LVR, the mortgage insurance premium would be something like $7,200. Finally, we're looking at miscellaneous costs, so conveyancing, building and pests, and everything else. Generally, you would allow $2,500 on top of your stamp duty and deposit and so on to cover all these costs. So $2,500 for your miscellaneous costs would be more than sufficient generally in most states in Australia, and you'll likely get some change out of that. So if we use that and follow on from that example, 10% deposit, $50,000, stamp duty was $18,296, and your miscellaneous costs $2,500, mean you need in total $70,796 to buy a property in New South Wales for $500,000. I note that the mortgage insurance premium of $7,200 is actually in this case put on top of the loan. So you're actually going to be borrowing $450,000 plus the mortgage insurance, so your total loan would be $457,200. Moving towards the process of actually buying a property, and we'll give you step-by-step guidance, very much join the dots. However, very briefly, and this is very, very brief, your key main steps are firstly getting a fully verified pre-approval. So what that means is an approval where you've provided your pay slips, your ID, everything's been provided to the bank, including your visa, and both the bank and, if required, the lender's mortgage insurer has actually signed off on that pre-approval. To give you an example, we have a lot of clients who have come to us after being approved. So they think they've been pre-approved by the bank, they've got a letter of pre-approval, they've then gone and found their property, and the bank has said, then turned around and said, no, you actually don't meet our policy, sorry, we made a mistake, we didn't realise you're on a visa, or what have you. So we always advocate for a fully verified pre-approval. We only ever provide fully verified pre-approvals. It does take a few extra days to get that, but it's well worth it for a stress-free purchase. Just noting, how do you know if your approval is fully verified? The letter of the approval will say on there, subject to the bank checking your application meets their policy. If your letter says subject to the bank checking your application meets their policy or something like that, then it hasn't been fully verified. You know, they're saying effectively, we'll lend you the money as long as your application meets our policy. That is not a verified approval. If we then look, once you're fully approved, once you have a fully verified pre-approval, you then go out there and you look to make an offer on a property. Your pre-approval lasts for 3 to 6 months, so you have 3 to 6 months to find a place to buy, and we'll give you step-by-step guidance on what sort of conditions you need to have in your contract and in your offer. Once you've made your offer and your finance has been approved, and obviously your offer was accepted, somewhere between 30 and 60 days after that, you'll actually settle and you'll get your keys and move into your new home. Some misconceptions busted. Firstly, are the interest rates or fees high because of your spouse or partner visa? Definitely not. Definitely not. Very common question. Often clients will say, well, you know, I'll take this loan, and is there any exit fees if I refinance in 2 years? Look, certainly there are no exit fees if you want to refinance in 2 or 3 or 4 years. What I say is, and they certainly will see, that the interest rates are not high because of your residency status, and I would suggest there'd be no requirement to refinance in 2 or 3 years' time. You can if you like, but I would suggest there's really no reason. Interest rates and fees are exactly the same and are very, very competitive and are not high because of your particular type of visa. It's very much, you might ask, well, you know, someone else has said we do need 20% deposit. You know, we have special arrangements with some of the banks because of our migration qualifications and experience in this sort of lending. We have semi-exclusive arrangements where we can get you up to 90 and 95% depending on your type of visa and circumstances. This is not available to all brokers out there and all banks out there, and so it is something that we do have access to. So if you have been told you need a 20% deposit, yes, this is the general rule, and most will tell you that. However, there are definitely options for you up to 90 and even 95% if you need them. If you've been told you need to be in Australia for a minimum period of time, this is incorrect. If you've been told you're on probation, you can't get approved, that's also incorrect. We've got, if you're a good quality, good employment history perhaps, there's no requirement that you be in Australia or in your current job for 3 to 6 months before you can be approved. your next steps. What is your next step? Where do you go from here? It kind of depends where you are in the cycle in your process. So if you're very much at the very early stages, just thinking about you may like to buy something in the future, maybe jump on our website, download a copy of our free report. You can also buy a copy of my book titled Buying Property in Australia, a guide for non-residents. I wrote this book specifically for new migrants to Australia. So if you're on a spouse visa, this book is for you. It's very step-by-step, easy to read guidance. Will take you about an hour and a half to read, and at the end of that you'll have a very good understanding of the process here in Australia. If you're looking to buy within the next 3 to 6 months, I would recommend getting in touch with us ASAP and booking in your free strategy session. In this session we'll go through, firstly whether you would qualify, what your goals and objectives are, and then we would look to advise you, yes, this is doable. If you are looking therefore to move to pre-approval, we would then prepare some advice for you in your statement of advice. If you've actually found a house to buy and wish to make an offer, or you've already made an offer, please get in touch with us ASAP. Give us a call or book in your strategy session. Just note in your comments that your matter is urgent. So that's your next steps. You're either just researching, get some more information from us. If you're looking to buy, book in a strategy session now, and if you've already made an offer, please call us as quickly as possible. I mentioned there that I wrote a book. You can actually download that book from our website. Just look out for that. You can purchase a copy of this book. It'll be posted to you from our website. Just look out for the graphic there. Or you can buy a Kindle version on Amazon.com. You can also buy a paperback version on Amazon.com as well. Just looking at what some of our clients have said about our service and about us, bear in mind that a lot of our clients have been already approached other banks or mortgage brokers and been advised they need a 20% deposit or otherwise have had the runaround. Kelly and Nas from Perth, their main issue, they had been working with I think a couple of mortgage brokers and a bank as well, and they'd been waiting about 2 or 3 months for an approval. They'd found a property, and so we actually they approached us. We had them approved within, I believe, 10 days, and approved at 95% regardless of their visa, with a bank and a rate cheaper than what the other brokers and banks were offering them. So that's one example. Another example was Chris and Ruth from Cairns. They were buying a block of land and building, but initially just buying the land, and they had approached a number of people and been told they couldn't be helped. They were quite a difficult one. They were just new to Australia, just new in their employment. But look, overall, they were a good, strong candidates, and we got them approved at 90% LVR to buy their block of land. They've just got the construction loan approved recently as well, and they're now sort of halfway through building their new home, and will be moving into their new home very shortly. Finally, we have Ben and Carmen from Townsville, and they were buying a property. They had a few issues. They had a credit default from when Ben was travelling. They had just moved to Australia, so Carmen was on probation, and she was also on an 820 spouse visa. We had that all approved. They were a very good, strong applicants. A number of issues there, a number of issues that would knock out a lot of banks, but we got them approved at a very, very good rate, very quickly, despite those issues. And obviously what they've said there, really what they've said there is their testimonial and about how they felt about our services. So look, thanks for listening. My name's Craig Vaughan. If you require any further assistance, please give our office a call, and I'll be very happy to chat and talk with you about your next steps and your options. Alright, look forward to talking to you soon. Bye for now.